Landmark of Taylorville, where you always do better with Landmark, and People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first. I have State Representative Avery Bourne on the phone right now. Great to have you back here, Representative Bourne.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So it is legislative veto week in Springfield. You guys are going to be heading into the Capitol and going to be talking about a range of stuff. Going to take a break for Thanksgiving, I understand, and then you'll be back at it the following week. So, what are some of the issues that you expect to be brought up right now? I understand it's a little early in terms of definitive stuff that you'll talk about, but what do you expect to address at the fall veto session, Representative Bourne?
Yeah, I think that it will bills posted to be voted on in a committee. And so it's kind of a wait and see. But here's what I do know. There are so many issues at the top of people's minds right now. Voters just got through an election where a lot of politicians promised they would address a lot of issues. And yet, if we go back to veto session and do nothing, I think that will be really disappointing. We also saw new indictments, or not indictments, but new issues come to light around the Speaker Madigan trial, where another company has pled guilty to wrongdoing, and when it relates to Mike Madigan. And so there really should be a call for ethics reform. I know you and I mentioned the Safety Act before we got on air. That is something that every single person campaigned on changing. The governor even said he would make changes to it. A lot of Democratic state reps and state senators campaigned saying they wanted to make changes to it. This, of course, is the bill that the Democrats passed in veto session of last session that takes away cash bail and really, I think, prioritizes criminals over the public safety of communities and families and victims of crime, especially when we've seen a crime uptick in this country. I think that needs to be changed before it goes fully into effect on January 1st. And then you've got everything with inflation and cost of living and high taxes in Illinois. I was talking to a family yesterday who doesn't want to move back. They want to move back to Illinois, but they can't afford the housing prices because the property taxes are just so much higher in Illinois, and the taxes overall are just so much higher in Illinois than where they are now, which is in Missouri. So there should be a lot of issues on the table, but like I said, we've yet to see anything. And I think that it's easy to stop paying attention after an election, but this is when we need to see if those who won really make good on their promises.
And with the Safety Act, you mentioned no cash bail. That sounds like it's kind of front of docket for most people who want to address it. Am I right?
Absolutely. We've seen states like New York who have tried this, who have had to really backpedal because it doesn't work. And this doesn't go into effect until January 1st. And so we can avoid all of those unintended or maybe intended consequences of implementing no cash bail before it starts on January 1st. Lawmakers who voted for it could realize the error of voting for it and change it before it goes into effect and save a lot of people. This is going to be awful for our criminal justice system to implement. It's going to be difficult for sheriffs and state's attorneys. That's why we've seen a bipartisan group of sheriffs and state's attorneys across the state file a lawsuit to stop it before it even starts. So I think that should be addressed just for the public safety of our state and our communities and our families, but also because these state's attorneys and sheriffs are suing because the law isn't even clear enough for them to know exactly how to implement it. So it needs changes, especially before January 1st.
Understood. Well, if Republicans could change one thing about it that would make it better for everyone, what do you think that would be, whether that's the no cash bail or something else in the bill?
I think the most immediate concern is this implementation of no cash bail on January 1st. There's definitely other issues. I think, too, Republicans have filed bills to just repeal it entirely and say, let's look at what's working, let's look at what's not working, and come to the table with law enforcement and find a solution.
I see. So repeal and then replace perhaps with a better solution.
We've heard that before, right? But also we don't have a very conservative Supreme Court in Illinois.
Right.
The Illinois Supreme Court reviewed this issue of ending cash bail before this bill passed, and they said, we are not ready for this. the changes that we made to bail reform, which was a bipartisan bill a few years ago, is working. Let's see how that works before we make any other changes.
That speaks volumes, I think. Even the lefter-leaning Supreme Court isn't ready to be able to kind of distinguish some of the language in the bill, which I think highlights why you guys are going back to look at it these next, well, I say next 2 weeks, but you know what I mean by that.
Right. The next 2 weeks we're in session, and we should be. I mean, this really should be a major focus, especially with that January 1st deadline hanging out there. So I am hopeful. I think I've said this before with you. I'm always the hopeful one that something will get done. And then, maybe next month I'll come back and report nothing happened. But I'm hopeful for now.
I'm hopeful that you'll have something to report on as well.
There you go.
With the veto session, is there anything else that you think that you guys will be able to address outside of the Safety Act? I know that's going to be front of mind for most, but is there anything else that you hope to address?
Like I said, I think ethics reform should always be at the top of the priority list in the legislature. We saw AT&T pled guilty again to kind of the same thing that ComEd did with bribing Speaker Madigan for legislative favors, is what's basically being laid out there, which is the accusation and what AT&T has signed on to, saying that they did. And so there's got to be some comprehensive ethics reform in Illinois to hold elected officials accountable. And bills that are as simple as, Republicans have a bill out there that says if you are under investigation for a crime, if you committed a crime and there's these allegations, your state pension should be suspended until it's all cleared up. And so, I mean, basic stuff like that should be addressed in the veto session, and that should be very bipartisan. There shouldn't be much disagreement around holding elected officials accountable who behaved badly and misused the public's trust.
Forgive me, I'm not 100% familiar with the whole process. Are you able to introduce legislation on this? And if so, do you have any legislation you're working on?
Yes, we can introduce legislation at any point in time. So it's called a veto session, but Governor Pritzker doesn't veto many Democratic bills, and so we don't have vetoes to take up. We can pass regular legislation in the veto session, just like normal session.
Okay.
We have ethics bills out there. There's a lot of bills that were not passed in the January to May session that we could take up any of those bills this session also.
Of note, what are you looking forward to perhaps introducing if you get a chance?
Yeah, like I've said, we've got ethics bills out there. We have bills to reform or repeal the Safety Act. And then I think we'll see some bills on, I was pumping my gas yesterday, and you see those obnoxious stickers on the gas pump that remind folks that the legislature delayed the tax increase until January. So there will be a double tax increase in January on the gas tax. I wouldn't be surprised if we see something about that, since gas prices are still really high. I think we should get rid of the sales tax entirely, or cap the sales tax entirely on gas, since it's double taxed. But I imagine that will be something Republicans bring up in this veto session as well.
Overall, what are your expectations for the veto session? Whether that's safety or, maybe nothing happens out of the veto session. What do you expect?
My expectations, and we can talk about the election certainly after this, but my expectation is that Democrats picked up more seats in the election than they expected. And so I don't know that they'll have much urgency to get anything done until January, when they get more of their members sworn in. I think they were expecting to lose the supermajority and thought they'd have to push a lot of things through in these final weeks. But since that didn't happen, I think it'll be pretty quiet, which is why we haven't seen any committees posted or gotten any information about a lot of bills being posted for a vote. So I think it'll be quiet, which is a shame because we've got a lot of issues to tackle. But that's if I were a betting woman, I would say it's pretty light this next week.
State Representative Avery Bourne here on the WTIM Morning Show. More from her after this short break. I beg your pardon, State Representative Bourne. More from State Representative Bourne after this short timeout here on WTIM, your information station. Stream brought to you by Landmark of Taylorville, where you always do better with Landmark, and People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first. here on WTIM, your information station.
WTIM.
Kirby Hames here from PS Printing in Taylorville. We have a new location to serve you. We're now at 350 North Webster on Illinois Route 29, right next to Wendy's. We're still providing the quality printing services you have come to expect from PS Printing since 1978, as well as complete web design, hosting, and even mobile apps. And we also create and provide digital signage to help you promote your products even better. PS Printing, now at 350 North Webster next to Wendy's. Online at psprinting.com.
Proven banking solutions are a must for today's business owner. Hi, I'm Andrew Olson with People's Bank and Trust. If your company needs products like online bill pay, remote deposit, or payroll direct deposit, or better checking and savings account options, then we need to talk. I can customize our business banking and lending plans to fit your company's needs. Call 888-PBT-1954 or visit bankpbt.com today. We want to be your business banking partner. People's Bank and Trust, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
At Golden Harvest, our best skill is knowing how to listen. From our Gold Series soybean and game-changing corn portfolios to our expert insights housed in the Illuminate digital agronomy platform, everything we offer is an answer to what we've heard from you. This is how we listen.
Copyright 2021 Syngenta. The trademarks or service marks used herein are the property of a Syngenta Group company. All other trademarks are the property of their respective owners.
If you're looking for local hunting and fishing information, then join us for Central Illinois Outdoors with me, Jared White, Saturdays at 10 a.m. here on WTIM. Every weekend, we'll offer detailed local fishing reports from professional guides. We'll swap stories with local celebrity sportsmen, and I'll invite you to share your stories as well. Central Illinois Outdoors with Jared White, every Saturday morning at 10 on all WTIM platforms. And on demand at centralillinoisoutdoors.com. Brought to you by Bob Ridings in Pana and the Clinton, Illinois Chamber of Commerce and Tourism Bureau.
The SIU Center for Family Medicine in Taylorville is accepting new patients. They accept most insurance plans. They also take individuals with no insurance. Their family physicians are trained to manage and treat the vast majority of medical problems and coordinate treatment with other providers and specialists. To learn more, click their icon at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com or call 217-824-1134. Forward for happy, healthy families. That's the SIU Center for Family Medicine in Taylorville.
Hi, I'm Dr. Paul Tufan from Taylorville Urgent Care. We're a walk-in clinic that's open 7 days a week to take care of sniffles, injuries, broken bones, and more. Find out more by clicking on our icon at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
Just Beds are the yawn exterminators, and they can give you a better night's sleep. Choose from Femco, Chatham & Wells, Sealy, Simmons, and Tempur-Pedic. Find out the many models and styles available on their updated website by clicking their icon at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
Your information station, WTIM.
Welcome back to the WTIM Morning Show. I'm Avery Cooper. Your stream brought to you by Landmark of Taylorville, where you always do better with Landmark, and People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first. I'm here on the phone with State Representative Avery Bourne. It's really great to talk to you about the election and everything going on with the veto session this week, Representative Bourne.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So I wanted to get your take on how you felt. We heard a little bit about what you thought about the election. I guess I wanted to, bluntly ask you, what did you think about the results here in Illinois?
I think that overall, as I was watching the election results, it didn't match my expectations, or I think the expectations of a lot of people going in. I mean, even House and Senate Democrats were privately telling people we're going to lose some seats. We might lose a lot of seats. And it didn't happen. And so I think there are lessons to learn for Republicans and Democrats, but I am specifically concerned about the issues the lessons that Republicans need to learn after this election, because I think that Republicans talked about the issues that were at the top of people's minds. It was inflation, it was the economy, it was, reining in the growth of government is a lot of what we heard people were concerned about. And then they didn't go to the polls and vote for Republicans. And so we need to learn the lessons of, I don't know whether it's finding the right candidates. I'm really proud of the candidate recruitment we did for House Republicans, but candidate quality matters, whether it's making sure that we offer a viable alternative. We can't just be the party of opposition, but we have to be a party that people would trust to be in power. And we have to be able to appeal to a broad base of people across the state. So I think there are a lot of lessons to learn. One thing I'm really proud of, though, is our House Republican team. As I was watching the results come in, many of our House Republican candidates outperformed other Republicans on the ballot, which means to me that we put in really good work, but you just can't outperform every Republican by so much that you win in some of these districts. So I think there are lessons to learn. I also think it tells a big story about gerrymandering in Illinois. This was a new map that Democrats drew specifically to elect more Democrats. And I think when we get all of the data and we're able to look at this, if there had been a fair map in Illinois, one that voters picked their elected officials instead of the other way around, we would have seen a different result on election night.
I wanted to play something for you here from the governor about how he thought election night went for the Democrats. Spoiler alert, he thought it went pretty well for him and his party. And then I wanted to be able to get your thought on what his take is. So here is Governor J.B. Pritzker.
And that's all because Democrats delivered. We delivered on so many things. I talked about them this morning, and we're continuing to do that. Republicans are, complaining, criticizing, and they have no solutions for anything. And so, I think they should look at their own conduct and think about actually coming to the table to get things done with us.
Representative Bourne, what do you make of that comment?
I don't think that Democrats, particularly in Illinois, should take this election as a huge victory for their policies. When I was watching the results come in, many down ballot Democrats outperformed J.B. Pritzker by more than, a few votes. They were really outperforming him, which says to me that people might like their local Democratic elected official, but they don't like the governor and the governor's extreme policies. And so I think he needs to look more closely at his policies and how they've impacted people, and then look at his election results, because we had Democratic judges outperforming him. We had Democratic local officials outperforming him, which says to me that he is not appealing to everyone like he thinks that he is. So there might have been Democratic successes down the ballot, but in a lot of areas, local Democrats were outperforming the governor, which I think is bad news if he wants to run for president like I think that he does.
Maybe alluding to 2024 perhaps. But, Representative Bourne, I understand that because you were in a primary for lieutenant governor and unfortunately that didn't go your way. Now it's kind of leaving you out of the next legislative house. So I guess I wanted to know if you have any plans right now for, obviously you have the veto session right now, and I'm getting way ahead of myself, but down the line, what are you thinking about doing here?
Yeah, right now I am, our office is still open. This is a question that I get. We're still working on constituent cases and policy, but I am figuring out the next way that I want to help serve people. I love this job because I get to meet a lot of people. I get to help them solve things and present policies that could help impact their life. And so I'm looking at a way to do that that's not in elected office, which is exciting. I've talked to many former elected officials and they say, after you're out of office, you will never go back. But I think that there are a lot of ways that I'll be able to stay engaged in policy, stay engaged in helping people. And I'm trying to find the right fit for me and the right fit for my family. But don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. Some people probably hate that, but I'll still be around. I'll still be engaged, certainly locally, and hopefully on policy issues that I really love and am passionate about. And more immediately, we're getting through the holidays and then start something new in January. And it's always a great time to start fresh and do something new. And I'm looking forward to it.
State Representative Avery Bourne, thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great week.
The Big 870 WTIM Assumption Taylorville, 96.1 W241 CF Taylorville, 107.5 W298 CD Shelbyville, 107.9 W300 EH Payne and Nokomis.
News